The SIG SAUER P365 Ultimate How-To Video. How to disassemble or field strip a SIG SAUER P365 XL. So this is a pretty simple process to disassemble this firearm for cleaning. First you want to remove the magazine, lock the slide back and make sure there are no rounds in the gun. Make sure it's completely unloaded. And while the slide is locked back, rotate the takedown lever clockwise until it stops. Grab a hold of the slide, push it back, release the slide lock, and it'll slide right off the front of the gun. Turn it upside down, take the recoil spring and guide rod and just press on it. It's got a little bit of spring tension there. Lift it up and then pull it out. And now you can access the barrel. Just lift it up and pull it out just like that. This is as far as you need to take this gun apart for cleaning purposes, and that's all there is to that. I'll be posting a complete cleaning and reassembly procedures as well. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below and please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to field strip or disassemble and clean, lubricate, and reassemble the SIG P365 XL. This will work the same for a standard P365 as well. First, as usual, we need to unload, verify that there's no ammunition in the area, no ammo in the gun. Now that we have the slide locked back, we're going to rotate the takedown lever, move the slide to the rear, release the slide stop, and now we can push the slide right off the front of the gun, flip it over, remove the recoil spring and guide rod, press up the barrel, pull the barrel out. Alright, all we're going to use today for the cleaning process, we're going to use CLP, cleaner lubricant and protectant. This is original gun oil. I like to use this. It's non-toxic, doesn't have a smell to it, don't have to worry about getting it on my fingers. We're going to use a bore snake to clean the inside of the barrel. This is a Hoppe's 9mm 357 or 380 bore snake. If your gun is extremely dirty, has a whole lot of carbon buildup, you might want to opt for Hoppe's number 9, which is a good bore cleaning solvent. I like to put it in a dispenser so I can just dole out as much as I need, and then it keeps the rest from getting contaminated. We're going to use cotton swabs. I like to use these. They have a pointy end and a flat end so you can get into different areas inside the gun, and a whole bunch of cotton rags. These are just an old cut up t-shirt, and this is a gun brush with a small brush and a large brush on it. So that's all you really need to do a good cleaning on your SIG P365. Just like cleaning any other semi-automatic firearm, we just want to clean off any dirt and grime, any carbon buildup, so the pistol continues to function optimally. Lubricate it lightly and put it back together. So it's pretty simple. I get some original gun oil. A CLP is recommended by SIG in the user manual. We want to brush this on the dirty surfaces, let it sit for a little bit, and then wipe everything off. So I like to start with the barrel. Reason being, we're going to let it soak for the longest because the barrel is going to be the dirtiest. So I take a few drops, put it down each side of the barrel, and then I just take a swab just to kind of spread it around so it's all inside the barrel. And then I'm just going to let it sit for a few minutes. Next I'm going to take the slide and I want to get some cleaning oil in here. So I just put some drops in here in a couple spots and spread it around with the brush. Optionally, you could put a few drops on the brush and just spread it directly onto the slide that way. You don't want to get oil down in the firing pin hole right there, and you don't want to get too much oil down here. So that's where the firing pin moves back and forth, and you want that to be free. Just kind of spread the oil around just so it kind of gets in the dirtiest places. After it's got a little coating of oil everywhere, let it sit for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and clean it up. Same thing on the recoil spring and guide rod. I would just put a drop on a brush. This isn't going to be too dirty, so just kind of brush it off. Frame, we're going to do the same kind of thing. A drop here, a drop here, a couple drops in the top. You don't need too much, and then just kind of spread it around. Get down inside with the small end, and then we're just going to let that sit for a few. Alright, after it's been a few minutes, I'm going to take a rag, clean the slide. So I just wipe down best you can like this. To get into the nooks and crannies, just take the cloth and put it over top. Then take the brush, we'll push the cotton cloth down into those little crevices and help clean it up that way. But basically we're just wiping off all the oil we put in there that loosened the dirt, get the dirt off. You want to especially get into the slide cuts, into these grooves that run all along both sides. Alright, get as best you can with the cloth, and then to get any final cleaning done you can use a cotton swab. I like these ones with the points on the one end. They fit real good into these slide cuts. That way you can get all the dirt out of these grooves. Make sure you clean this breech face, make sure that's nice and shiny if possible. Then just continue to wipe every little area as best you can with your cotton swabs until you're satisfied. Alright, one important area to get, right under this little notch here, that's the ejector. This little notch grabs onto the back of your brass and pulls it out of the barrel after each shot. So it's very important that there's nothing under there and it's nice and clean. Alright, so when you're done, just make sure you didn't leave any pieces of the cotton swab that may have come off. Next, we're just going to wipe down the recoil spring, guide rod. Use a brush to kind of get in those grooves. Now the frame, same kind of thing. Wipe it down with the rag. Then use your brush to get in the grooves. I like to push cloth through the grip. Finish your cleaning with the cotton swabs. Get it as clean as you can. Alright, that's nice and clean. Now cleaning the inside of the barrel. So I started by putting some oil in here to get it nice and clean. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a bore snake and run it through here. A bore snake is basically this long thing here of material. It's got copper brushes built into it, and this is the Viper version. It's a little bit longer and more thorough than the standard version. We're just going to pull this through the barrel a couple of times. The brushes are going to scrape it, and then all this material acts like a whole bunch of patches going through there, and it's going to clean it real good. A couple of times. That's usually all you need, 2 or 3 times, and that barrel's going to come up nice and clean. And then you're done with the barrel. If your barrel is really, really dirty or you haven't cleaned it in a long time, you're going to want to get something like Hoppy's number 9, which is a gun bore cleaner. It's a solvent. It's a little more aggressive than your gun oil is as far as cleaning. I like to put it in a Menda pump dispenser. You can pump up as much as you need, and it keeps the main amount from getting contaminated. The rod and patch method. So this is a rod. It's got a jag on the end. So what I would do is take a patch appropriately sized for 9mm, which is what we're working with, which is about 2 inches by 2 inches. Soak it real good in solvent. Push it through just to coat the inside with solvent. Just let it sit for a little bit. Let that solvent do its work. Then in the meantime, get a copper or bronze brush, which will come in any gun cleaning kit. Put that on the end of your rod, and after this has been sitting for a few minutes, take the brush, push the brush through a couple times back and forth, and that along with the solvent is really going to loosen up the dirt. Put your jag back on and start pushing some more solvent patches through there. Basically keep doing that until the patches come out pretty clean. That brush really loosened up some more dirt. I would push through 2 or 3 patches with solvent on them. Yeah, that's a lot cleaner already. And then start pushing dry patches through, and that's going to clean up the barrel real nice. So just put a couple more through until it's clean. And that's pretty clean. At this point, you want to get all that solvent off, get all the residue off. Make sure you get this feed ramp. Alright, now that should be the cleanest barrel in the world at this point. Alright, now we're done with the barrel. Now we have all the pieces cleaned. It's time to lubricate. So let's start with the slide. We're just going to take some original gun oil or your oil of choice, put a couple drops on a cloth, and we're just going to kind of wipe a little bit of lube down in here and along the slide cuts. on the sides. The slide moves back and forth. Alright, that's about all you need for the slide. You definitely do not want to get any oil into the firing pin hole in there, and you don't want to drip any oil down in this slot here on the frame. One tiny little drop on that rail, one little drop here, and just kind of smear that from one end to the other. Don't need much at all right there. I would put one drop down in the workings here, a very small drop. Wipe away any excess. Just want to get a little bit in there. That's about it. Definitely don't need too much lube. And the manual says to wipe down the recoil spring and guide rod. A little bit of oil, so I'd put it on a rag. And just a very, very light coating. Now as far as the barrel, if you're going to take this gun and store it for a while, put a couple of drops on a patch and just push that slowly through the barrel. You just want to get a very light coat of oil in the inside of the barrel if you're going to store it for a while, just to prevent corrosion. And then when you do go to shoot it, or if you're going to start carrying the gun, take a dry patch before you shoot it and push that through. And lastly, you just want to lightly coat the exterior of the entire barrel with a very light coat of oil. Okay, to reassemble the SIG P365, simply take the slide, place the barrel in like that, make sure it's all the way back, take the recoil spring and guide rod, squeeze that so that it ends up looking like that, right in the middle. Before we put the slide onto the frame, two things you want to check. One, you want to make sure that this lever is pointed down just like this. It's possible after cleaning that it's stuck in this position and it won't come down. So to get it to come down, just press the slide stop up and bring it down like that. Make sure it's in the down position. Also, there's a small lever in here that needs to be in the down position. This lever here could potentially be up like that. If it's up like that, the slide's not going to go on properly. So if it's up, just make sure it's down. All right. Now another quirky thing about the P365, if you put the slide on, line up the slide with the rails on the frame. When you go all the way back with it, press the slide stop up. Now it's possible that your takedown lever will also snap back into place, in which case you're done, everything's back together. The other thing I've seen happen is when you put the slide on, hold it back, and put the slide stop in place like that. Now what I've seen happen is when you flip this switch, it also pulls the slide stop lever down and the gun will snap closed. So that's okay, but it's going to scare the bejesus out of you, and if your hand's in the way, you might get pinched. So be careful about that. One thing you could do to prevent that from happening is when you put the slide all the way back, when you lock it in place, grab a hold of the gun tightly like this when you snap that into place, and then this will pop down, and now just slowly release the slide to go forward. So that's another way to do it. Alright, now that it's back together, we can just run the slide a few times, make sure it feels right, wipe off any excess oil on the outside of the gun. And as far as disassembling and cleaning the magazine, I'm going to have a video for that. I'll link it up in the corner, and I'll link it down in the description. Also, after you're done reassembling your P365, you should go through a quick function and safety check. I'll link that up in the corner, and also leave a link down in the description below. If you like this video, please hit like below, please subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. All the items used in the video can be found at the links below. How to reassemble the SIG SAUER P365 XL or P365. It's a pretty simple procedure. Take the slide, put the barrel back in the slide just like that. Recoil spring and guide rod. This one has some yellow paint on it to tell you that this is the end, this is the back, this is the front. So the front looks like that, and the back looks like that. So you just put that in like this. Squeeze it down a little bit, put it into the notch so it ends up looking just like that. You want that centered in the slide. Okay, now before you put the slide back on the frame, there's a couple of things you need to look at right here. if your takedown lever is not all the way down, all the way clockwise, and you can't turn it, you just have to press up on the slide stop to allow that to come down. So it should look like this, and then in here there's a safety lever which might be in the up position. Mine wasn't, but if it's in the up position you need to push that down or the slide's not going to go on. Alright, so once all those things are done, line up the slide, slide it on gently, slide it all the way back, press up on the slide stop. Your takedown lever may snap back into place like mine did. If it doesn't, just twist it back up counterclockwise so it looks like that. Alright, and then you can move the slide back and let it come forward. Okay, and now just check the slide and make sure it feels right. Make sure everything looks to be in place. I'm also going to post a video on safety and function testing for this firearm after you reassemble it, and I will post that when that video is ready. Alright, there you have it. If you like this video, please hit like below and please subscribe, and thank you for watching. Okay, this video is going to show you how to do the SIG P365 function and safety check, also known as the function verification in the SIG manual. So anytime you reassemble your P365 or any other firearm, you should do a quick function and safety check. We're going to start by unloading the gun, remove the magazine, slide back, make sure there's no ammo in the gun. Okay, the first check is going to be the magazine check. So put the magazine in firmly, make sure it clicks, make sure it doesn't come out. Run the slide back and make sure it locks back automatically because there's an empty magazine in there. Now press the magazine release. The magazine should drop out easily under its own weight. Now press the slide release and the slide should close on its own and close all the way. This particular P365 does not have a manual safety. If you have a manual safety, at this point you want to push that safety in the up and safe position. Then you want to press the trigger and the striker should not activate. Nothing should happen when you press that trigger. And then after you do that, you want to press the safety into the fire position and then press your trigger and the striker should fall. So on this particular gun, without the safety, you can skip that part. Alright, next is the trigger reset test. So cock the striker one more time, point the gun in a safe direction anytime you pull the trigger. So point the gun in a safe direction, press the trigger and hold it back. You should have heard the striker fall. And while holding the trigger back, rack the slide to reset it and then gently let the trigger come forward until you hear a click. That's the trigger reset. And then press the trigger once again. The striker should fall again. That completes the quick checks in the SIG P365 user manual. However, I have one additional test that I usually do after cleaning my gun. I want to make sure that the gun is going to extract and eject properly. I will load 5 dummy rounds into a magazine. These particular dummy rounds are A-Zoom snap caps. I like these. There's a whole bunch out there. I'll put a link in the description. Making sure I only have dummy rounds in here. Load it into an empty pistol. Rack the slide so I have 1 round in the chamber. So now I'm just going to simulate firing the gun by racking the slide. Each time I rack the slide, one of the dummy rounds should be ejected out onto the table, and after the 5th time the slide should lock to the rear because we have an empty magazine. So it's a real simple test, real quick. I'm going to do it now. And the slide locked to the rear. Alright, we're good to go. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please hit like below. Please subscribe and please check out the links in the description below. Today I'm going to show you how to disassemble and clean a SIG SAUER P365 magazine. This is a pretty simple process. It's a good idea to clean your magazines each time you clean your gun, especially if you've been to the range and maybe you drop your magazine and dropped it in the gravel or in the dirt. You want to make sure nothing got in here that's going to impede the proper function of the magazine. You want to just take your magazine upside down. You'll see this hole in the bottom. Take a pin punch or even a small screwdriver, something like that. So just push that pin in a little bit. So just press it down a little. Press it toward the front. Now, very important to keep your thumb over top here, because once you remove this base plate, there's spring pressure that's going to want to push. There's spring pressure is pressing up, and you don't want this to come up and hit you in the face. It's also a good idea to wear eye protection at this point. And then you can pull the spring, kind of work the spring back and forth as it gets hung up on these little edges here. So just work it back and forth and pull it out. Then you have your follower. This is your floor plate in the bottom. They're all kind of connected to the spring. You can pop them off if you want, but it's not necessary. All right, and then once you have it apart, we'll just kind of clean up the pieces real quick and put it back together. Okay, so the SIG user manual calls for wiping the magazine tube and the follower with a cloth, and then cleaning them with a salt brush and some CLP. Basically, wipe down the tube. You could push a cloth through the tube to clean the inside. Wipe down the follower. This is the follower. Wipe that down, then wipe down everything else. If it's not too dirty, this is going to be a really quick job. Wipe down your base plate. If you do have some dirt buildup on here, I would get a little drop of CLP. That's a cleaner lubricant protectant. I like to use original gun oil because it's non-toxic and it doesn't have an odor to it. So I don't have to worry about getting it on my fingers. Put a drop on a brush. Clean the inside of the tube real quick. You can do the outside if you want. Clean the follower. And then wipe that off. It's going to come up nice and clean. Then again, push a rag through there to get all that CLP off of there. Get it nice and clean. Alright, and then now the user manual calls for some CLP on the outside of the magazine tube and on the spring. I presume that's for corrosion resistance. Just get a drop on a cloth. You really don't want much. Wipe down the outside of the magazine tube. If it feels oily, you can just lightly wipe it off so it's not oily feeling. And then take that same drop and just run it down the magazine spring. Alright, and then once all that is done, you just need to put the magazine back together. Then to reassemble, it's going to go back together like this. So push your spring in. Work it back and forth if necessary. To get the spring down in there, again being very careful not to hit yourself in the face. You'll see how the base plate is kind of shaped like the bottom of the magazine, so you know you have it in the correct orientation. Put your thumb over that, hold that tight. Take the base plate, it's got some slots on the end, line those up with the slots on the side. Kind of like that. Then now you're going to have to push this base plate down far enough to get this over top. So make sure the slots from the tube are in the slots of the base plate. And just kind of slide that up until it snaps in place. The top of your magazine is going to look like that. Now what we want to do is test everything. So you just want to press down, make sure it moves up and down. What I like to do to make sure the magazine is put together correctly and is going to be working properly, assuming you have a 9mm firearm, take some 9mm dummy rounds. I use A-Zoom snap caps. These are just dummy rounds, completely safe. They're just fake ammunition. I like to put 5 dummy rounds into the magazine. So I will load the magazine with 5 dummy rounds. Please be sure that they are dummy rounds. Make sure your firearm is completely empty of real ammunition. Load the magazine, chamber one of the dummy rounds. I'm just going to simulate firing the gun by racking the slide. Each time I rack the slide, one of the dummy rounds should be extracted and ejected from the gun. And after the 5th time, because I have 5 in there, the magazine will be empty and the slide should lock back. So I'm just going to do it real quick. Alright, so that worked beautifully. So I know my magazine is working properly, and that's a good test to do. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below, please subscribe, and please check out the description. I have links for dummy rounds down there. And thank you for watching. SIG SAUER P365 magazine catch or magazine release, removal and installation. So the SIG SAUER P365 has a magazine release or magazine catch button that can be reversed. So typically it's going to be on the left side of the gun for a right-hander, but if you have a left-handed shooter and you want to swap it over to here, that's what we're going to do today. But first, as usual, we want to make sure the gun is unloaded, there's no magazine in the gun, and there's no round in the chamber. So it's pretty simple. All you need is a small paper clip to do this. Alright, so to get the magazine catch out of the gun, we need to pull out this little black piece in the front. This is a wedge called the magazine catch stop. So that stops the magazine catch from just popping out. This has to be removed, and then that will release the rest of the magazine catch to come out. To do that, you need to press up on the magazine catch from the back, and you need to keep constant pressure on that. And when you press that up, you're going to see a little hole right back here that's just big enough to put a small paper clip in there. Don't use a large paper clip. Believe me, it's not going to work very well. Also keep in mind, you might end up making a little bit of a wear mark right here with a paper clip if you're not super careful. I did do that. I'm not very happy. Just a little ding there you can hardly see, but I just want to make you aware that that might happen. Now you're going to want to press up from the bottom, and while you're pressing up, put the paper clip in the hole, press a little, press a little, and kind of lever that up. Just kind of push in, little pressure, and then lever it down, and that piece will start to come up. Once it's up that far, you can grab it and pull it out. Pull that out, and now your magazine stop and spring will fall out the bottom there. Alright, so that's how you get it out. It's not real easy, it's a little bit tricky. It took me a few attempts to do that, but I was able to get it out. So now we want to put it in on the other side for a left-handed shooter. Set the spring in the stop like this. I'm going to use my thumbnail just to kind of hold things together as I turn it around. Face the gun down so gravity can help us out here. And just slide that in. Let gravity hold the spring right in the bottom of that groove. And just gently push it in. So you want it to sit like that. You'll see the spring there. So now we want to press on it, but you want to press downward a little bit. Just downward pressure and then inward pressure. So this comes out the other side, looks like that. Alright, you got to hold that like that. Not real easy. And then we want to put the wedge back in there. So make sure the little notch right there is up. Stick it in like that. And just press it down until it clicks in place, and then you can let go. Now just test it. Feels good. And then you can put a magazine in. Make sure it's locked in place and stays locked in place until you press the button, make it come out. Alright, now we have it on the side of the gun for a left-handed shooter. Now you can be finished here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to swap it back to the other side. If you want to stop here, please hit like below, and thanks for watching the video. Okay, now that we have the magazine release on the right side of the gun for a left-hander, let's swap it back to the other side, and we'll just go through the process one more time real quick. Alright, so I'm going to press it in from the other side. I'm going to take my paper clip, just going to push it in, press down, and kind of work that little piece out. And once it's out part way, you can grab a hold of it and pull it out. The magazine catch is going to fall right out of the gun. Alright, so now we want to put it back on the left side of the gun for a right-handed shooter. Alright, to put this back together, put the spring on the magazine catch, hold it together with your fingers. Have the gun facing down so that gravity will help the magazine catch stay on top of the spring. Now the spring is sitting in there, the magazine catch is kind of sitting on top of it. Press slightly downward to keep things together and press in. And if it's in there right, you'll feel spring pressure pushing back. Push that all the way and hold it in from the other side. Make sure that notch is facing up, right? And then set that down into the triangular opening, and then push that down until it snaps in place. Take a magazine, put it in there, make sure it doesn't come out until you press the button, and make sure it drops free. And then you're done. If you found this video helpful, please hit like below, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. If you've got a P365 XL or a SIG SAUER 12-round magazine that you're having one heck of a time loading, try a Speed Bees P365 lever loader. This is by far the easiest way to load up one of these ridiculous SIG SAUER 12-round magazines. It works on any of the SIG SAUER 9mm magazines. When I first got this, it was so tough and the spring was so stiff, I could only get 4 rounds in here with my bare hands. And I did end up buying a universal loader, But since then, I had someone make a comment in one of my videos to get a SpeedBees P365 lever loader. And this is by far the easiest way to load these horrible magazines and get all 12 rounds into them. Super easy to use. So the way this works, the magazine actually locks into it, just like it locks into your gun, and it's released with the magazine release right here. And then this lever, you can see in there, when you press the lever down, it pushes the top round down, so you can just slide your next round right in there. And then when you let up on it, this piece here comes up and pushes the round back underneath the feed lips. And then you press it up again and it pushes that round down. Slide the round in, press down, and this pushes that round right into the magazine. First thing you want to do is just move this up a little bit so you can just snap the magazine in, it locks in place. Alright, I'm just going to hold it upside down so I can use my thumb so you can see what I'm doing here. Up, 2, 3. There we have it. Got the 12th round in, and it was no big deal. My thumb does not hurt at all. This is cheaper than the Uplula by about 10 bucks. So I'll have a link in the description down below if you want to pick one of these up. Man, this is the best thing for the SIG SAUER P365 9mm 12 round magazine. It works on the P365, the XL, and the other versions of the P365 except for the 380. Alright, thanks for watching. Please check the description below for a link to this awesome loader. Okay, today I'm going to take the fire control unit out of the SIG P365, and we're going to take a good look at that because they tend to fall apart when you do this, and I'm going to show you how to put it back together if it falls apart on you. First, I'm going to verify that it is unloaded. Then we're going to remove the slide. Now what we need to do is pull this pin out. So I'm just going to set this here. We get a 3/32 pin punch. Just push that out, push it through the bottom like so. Okay, when you first pull out your fire control module, you want to be super gentle with it, and I would grab it with your thumb right here because these are the parts that fall off. This bar right here falls off, and this is actually a pin right here. This pin will walk out of this gun very easily, and then this little lever right here will fall out. If this pin backs out and this piece falls out on you, never fear. It's difficult, but it's not impossible to get that back in there. So this pin goes into this hole like that, and then it goes in and it holds this piece in place, feeds through that hole there. So what you're going to have to do is put this in the slot and somehow get this hole lined up with this pin. One way I found to do that is to turn it upside down, leave this pin kind of up in the air like that, and then just kind of slide this in, not like that. This is going to sit just about like that. So that's roughly where it's going to go. Once you get it right around there, you're just going to kind of want to put a little pressure on this and just move this around a little bit with your finger if you can. There you go. See, I got it right in the right spot, and this pin fell right down in there. Alright, so now hold this in. Now you don't want it to come out again. Just make sure that this pivots up and down, and try and pull it out. Make sure it's caught on that pin in there. Alright, shake it, make sure it's not going to come out. Alright, so we got that back in. Alright, so if you find yourself that this has come out, this comes out really easy. If this comes out, maybe that fell out, and maybe that fell out on you too. Take care to keep this in. Don't let this fall out again. So we're going to put these back in. So basically, this is your takedown lever, and to put this in, it's pretty easy to get this in, but it kind of sits a certain way, and that's how it sits, like that. Just kind of swings back and forth right here. All right, and it looks like this on the other side. All right, so kind of keep that down. If you look under here, there's a notch in the bottom of this, right here. That notch, this piece goes up into that notch right here. So it's a little bit tricky because there's other things that kind of have to line up. So you just kind of put this underneath at a little bit of an angle. Don't worry about this end right now. Just try and get this one, hold it somewhat straight. Try and push it up into that notch and try and get it to lay flat like that. And notice how these two pieces come together. You might have to lift this up to get it in there, but be careful because this can also come out. You don't want that to come out either. Okay, so when everything is in place, kind of press this and make sure this should only go a little bit. It shouldn't spin all the way around because it's caught, because that end piece is up in that notch. So it only goes back and forth like that a little bit. Keep pressure on this. And now this end here, this end is what comes out first usually. All right, so you want to lift this up a little and you want to press down on the internal hammer here. And if you look down in here, when I press that little lever moves out of the way. So you want to press it down, and while that lever is in front, push this down and it holds that little lever. The little lever was in there going back and forth. Push this down so you can't see that lever anymore. See, if you pull that up, there's the lever again down in there. When I press down, it moves out of the way. Press down, push this down to hold on to that. So this should be sitting nice and flat like that. And then this should be all the way down. You shouldn't be able to press it down any further, the internal hammer. Okay, so now everything is back in place. This is still kind of locked. Kind of keep some pressure on these here while you put it back into the grip module so it doesn't come apart again. And just gently lower it down in here. Comes down in. Get your pin, put it in from the left hand side. Make sure that's in place. It kind of clicks in place a little bit, not really powerfully, but a little bit of a click. Then put your slide on. Lock this a lot of times will pop back up. So now you're good to go. And now wrap the slide. Always verify it's empty before you press the trigger, but we're going to press the trigger. There's no rounds anywhere in the area. Close the slide up, point it in a safe direction, press the trigger, hold the trigger back, rack the slide, bring it forward, get your reset, press the trigger again. Okay, next, make sure you do a function and safety check real quick to make sure everything's functioning properly on your SIG P365. Alright, if you like this video, please hit like below. Please check out the description for some of the tools here if you need them, and please subscribe, and thanks for watching.